So this is Jim Leonhard coming in as the defensive backs coach for the Denver Broncos. And if you don't remember, Jim Leonhard was a safety for a long time in the NFL. I think he started with the Bills, then went to the Ravens, Jets, played for the Broncos in 2012, and had a pretty darn good season that year. That was probably, I don't think it's even arguable. It was probably the most overall talented team with Peyton Manning here. Offense, defense, both of them were top 5. Jim Leonhard was a part of that. And then he went off and started coaching at Wisconsin, if I remember right. Is that right? And did a heck of a job as a defensive coordinator for a team that wasn't the most talented by any means, but they seemed to be very disciplined. They seem to be playing up to the level of a lot of great teams there in the Big Ten. So I like this hire. And I think he's one of those up and coming guys that really could be moving up the ranks to defensive coordinator sooner than later in the NFL.
I think a lot of football innovation from a scheme perspective comes from the bottom of the top. So high school up to college, up to the NFL, because the talent disparities at those levels are much bigger than you see at the NFL. So what's the difference? How do these teams find the edge? I think it's a lot of times pushing the envelope in scheme. And Jim Leonhard has been phenomenal with the ability to create pressure packages and use different body types to play different kind of roles, specifically the defensive front. I know he's going to be the defensive back coach, but I've always been super impressed with just the glass eating mentality of the linebackers and the strength and discipline of the defensive line of those Wisconsin teams. We saw Leo Chanel in the Super Bowl here with Wisconsin, finding a role with him. He was, recruited and brought up under Jim Leonhard out there in Wisconsin. TJ Watt also out there. Who's the really Van Ginkel? Maybe a little bit more of an underknown name, but it was awesome this year with the Dolphins. Obviously, you had Keanu Benton. So they've had some really good defenses, and I've been super impressed with Jim Leonhard. He comes up under the Rex Ryan school, I would say more so than anything, because he played there. I think his best seasons were with the Jets. So he came up more of that, zone style, but very aggressive in the front, trying to isolate pass rushers one-on-one and make sure that your worst pass protector is up against your best pass rusher often, which I think is really playing pretty well right now. I think I don't want to say the godfather of that or anything, but it's a lot of this stuff that's trickling up to the NFL right now with the simulated pressures and whatnot. It's been going on for a bit. Everything in the NFL is cyclical, but Dave Aranda did a lot of that, went from Wisconsin to LSU, now the head coach at Baylor, and Leonhard kind of is in that tree as well. We see it worked really well with Mike McDonald this year, and now he's the head coach of Seattle coming from Baltimore. So I'm really excited to see what Leonhard does. Obviously, there's going to be some interest with Vance Joseph lining up with him because they're both defensive back guys at heart. So how does that look? Because I don't think they've crossed paths at all so far. So I don't know if there's a relationship there. But Leonhard, really highly thought of. I'm honestly pretty shocked that Wisconsin did not keep him as the head coach after they fired Paul Chryst 2 years ago, because Leonhard was thought of so highly as the defensive coordinator there. Would go on for a year to go on to Illinois under Brett Bielema as well. And I think had an interview with the Eagles last year, the defensive coordinator, but backed off because he had to have a back surgery, something like that. So really a well thought of guy. I'm going to miss Christian Parker in Denver, no doubt. Very smart, up and coming 32-year-old, same age as me, Carl, defensive back coach. But Jim Leonhard is about as good of a replacement as you could have thought of for losing Christian Parker, in my opinion.